The next morning, Dinah woke up smiling, and that alone scared her. She wasn't used to waking up soft. She usually woke up fighting the universe. She stretched, checked her phone, and found a message from Ray June. Ray June, morning, trouble. Did you sleep? Dinah, barely. Dreamt of bills chasing me. Ray June, I'll pay them. Dinah, don't tempt me, Appa. I'm fragile. She grinned and rolled over on her bed. Lord, this man wants me to fall for him properly. Her followers were still flooding her last post with comments. She was trending again, the melanin queen of soul. People were obsessed with her fashion, her boldness, her mysterious rich boyfriend, who appeared in one blurry shot from the dinner. Dinah looked at that photo and smiled. He was turned away, but his tattoo peeked out from his sleeve. He really fine though, she whispered. Across town, Ray June sat in his car, waiting for her text. His men were briefing him about business, but he was only half listening. Boss, one of them said cautiously, we heard rumors. Someone's spreading lies about you online. He frowned. Lies? Yes. A gossip account said you're dating a fake influencer who uses people for clout. Ray June's jaw tightened. Find who started it. He didn't have to guess long, because at that very moment, Minna was in her office, flawless in a cream suit, sipping coffee as she watched the chaos she'd created unfold. Her assistant whispered, Ma'am, the story's blowing up. People are mocking the girl. Minna smiled. Good. Let her feel the sting. Maybe then she'll run back to wherever she came from. She had bribed a small blogger to leak fake screenshots claiming Dinah had been messaging multiple rich men, pretending to be single. Within hours, the internet was on fire. She's lying again. Fake luxury girl caught. Poor foreigner pretending to be a millionaire's girlfriend. Dinah was still brushing her teeth when her phone exploded with notifications. What's going on? She muttered, opening the posts. Her smile faded. Her photos were everywhere. Twisted, mocked, and captioned with lies. Her hands shook. Who would do this? Just then, her phone rang. It was Ray June. Dinah, don't read anything, he said immediately. It's all fake. She tried to laugh. Fake? You sure it's not karma for lying too much? Dinah, she sighed, sitting down on her couch. I'm fine. I'm used to people talking nonsense. I just didn't want it to reach you. It doesn't change how I see you, he said firmly. I know who you are. That made her eyes sting. You sure? Because the internet's painting me like a villain. I'll handle it, he promised. She sniffed and joked softly. Good. Handle it before my haters think I'm selling fake eyelashes next. He chuckled, but he could hear the sadness behind her humor. Later that day, Dinah decided to step out of her apartment despite the gossip. She wore her biggest sunglasses, her boldest red lipstick, and a bright pink hoodie that said, Unbothered Queen. As she walked down the street, she could hear whispers. That's her. Is she the one who lied about the car? She turned dramatically and said, Yes, that's me, and I'm still fabulous, darling. Then flipped her hair and kept walking. But behind the sass, her heart was heavy. For once, she wished she could be invisible. That evening, Ray June showed up at her apartment unannounced. When she opened the door and saw him standing there, tall, clean, dressed in all black, she almost burst into tears. What are you doing here? She asked softly. He stepped in. You weren't answering my texts. I didn't want to be the topic of rich people gossip, she said, crossing her arms. Now they're saying I used you for attention. I didn't even post your face. He reached out and cupped her cheek. I don't care what they say. She blinked fast, then smirked. You sure? Because your fancy people are probably asking why you fell for a fake slay queen. He smiled faintly. You're not fake to me. Dinah looked away, tears threatening to fall. You don't get it, Ray June. I've been pretending so long that I forgot how to just be me. He pulled her closer. Then let me see the real you. She laughed weakly. You might regret that. The real me is loud, messy, and allergic to authority. He chuckled. Perfect. I hate rules too. They stood there in silence for a moment, the kind of silence that hummed with electricity. Then Dinah sniffed and looked up. You know what? You need to relax. Let's do something fun. Fun? Yes, you're too stiff. I'm teaching you how to dress like a black man. He blinked. What does that mean? Means no more mafia suits. You need swagger, she said, grabbing his wrist and dragging him to her closet. He tried not to laugh as she pulled out an oversized denim jacket, gold chain, and sneakers. Put these on. Dinah, this doesn't look like me. Exactly. That's the point. When he came out of the bathroom wearing it, Dinah screamed laughing. Appa, you look like you're about to drop an R&B mixtape. He looked in the mirror, surprised. Actually, it feels good. Of course it does. You look finny, she teased, snapping pictures. Ladies and gentlemen, my man just became a whole vibe. Rayjun laughed and reached for her phone. No posting. Why? I don't want to share this side with anyone else. Her smile softened. Ah, look at you getting all territorial. He leaned in slightly. Maybe I am. The tension between them was thick now. She could smell his cologne, see the way his tattoos peeked from under the jacket she'd picked. For the first time in her life, Dinah didn't feel like faking anything. She felt seen. Meanwhile, across the city, Minna sat with her phone, scrolling through comments. Her eyes narrowed when she saw a new picture of Rayjun, dressed differently, happier, laughing. Who does she think she is? She whispered. Bitterly. Her assistant said cautiously, Ma'am, maybe you should let it go. The boss seems serious about her. Minna's expression darkened. If he's serious, then I'll make her a memory. That night, Dinah and Rayjun sat by her small balcony eating noodles from paper cups. She had her legs on his lap. He was looking at the stars. You know, she said, for a scary mafia man, you're soft. He smiled. Only with you. She laughed. Be careful. You're about to make me catch feelings again. Then don't fight it, he said simply. She turned and looked at him. Really looked. And for once, her jokes failed her. Rayjun, she said softly. You scare me. Why? Because I'm not used to people staying. He took her hand gently. Then I'll teach you how it feels. Her lips parted slightly, her heart racing. And what if I mess up? Then I'll be here when you do. She smiled through watery eyes. You're too calm for a man with tattoos. He chuckled. You're too dramatic for a woman who pretends not to care. They both laughed. A sound that felt like healing. As the night deepened, Dinah leaned on his shoulder. The city lights shimmered below them. Everything felt perfect. But somewhere far away, Minna was already putting her plan in motion. And before dawn, the same gossip account that had ruined Dinah's morning posted another headline. Who is the black girl controlling Seoul's most dangerous man? This time, the storm wouldn't just be online. It was coming straight for her heart. The night was too quiet for Seoul. Even the air felt like it was holding its breath. Dinah sat in Ray's car, tapping her Stanley cup against the console and mumbling to herself. She had agreed to hang out after work, but her mind was racing. Something about Ray didn't fit into any of the little boxes she used for people. He got a call, murmured something in Korean that sounded rough, then parked near the river. Stay here, he said. His tone was calm, but it wasn't the voice he used when they joked around. It was colder, steadier. Dinah tried to laugh it off. You're not going to go do some fast and furious deal out there, right? He only gave her that faint smile that made her feel warm and nervous at the same time. Then he stepped out. Through the windshield, she saw him meet a group of men in dark coats. They bowed. One handed him a briefcase. Another kept looking over his shoulder like he expected trouble. And there was Ray, unmoving, composed, his face unreadable under the streetlight. It hit her like a wave. He was Mafia, not in the movie way, real, sharp, dangerous. Her breath caught. Every joke she'd ever made about dating a bad boy suddenly felt ridiculous. Then one of the men shouted something, and everyone froze. Ray turned slightly, his eyes narrowing. The streetlight caught the edge of a tattoo climbing up his neck. Dinah's stomach knotted. She ducked, but he'd already seen her watching. For a heartbeat, they just stared through the glass, her eyes wide with fear, his softening with something close to apology. He walked back slowly. When he opened the door, she flinched. Dinah, he said quietly. You weren't supposed to see that. She folded her arms, trying to sound bold. Well, excuse me for having eyes, Mr. Mystery Man. What was that? A book club meeting? Ray let out a breath that was half a laugh. I told you I'm not a normal man. Yeah, no kidding, she said, voice trembling even though she tried to hide it. You got half of soul. Bowing to you like you're in some K-drama finale. He crouched beside her seat. If you're scared, say so. She met his gaze. Of course I'm scared. You act like you own the city. Then softer. But I don't think you'd hurt me. That made him freeze. The wind off the river brushed between them, cool against the warmth of the car. Ray reached for her hand, slowly, like he was asking permission. His fingers were calloused, careful. Dinah, he murmured. I don't know why I want you near me, but I do. Her laugh came out shaky. Maybe because I'm the only one brave enough to roast you. He smiled, the real one, the one that made the tattoos and power melt away. Maybe. For a long second, they just looked at each other. The city lights flickered on the water behind them. Dinah could feel her heart pounding in her throat. Ray brushed a stray curl from her face, his touch hesitant, almost afraid to be gentle. She didn't pull away, and when he leaned closer, she whispered, You're trouble, Ray. I know, he said. Their lips met, slow, uncertain, more a promise than a claim. The kind of kiss that felt like the first breath after drowning. When they parted, Dinah's usual sass crept back. If you ruin my lip gloss, I'm sending you the bill. Ray laughed quietly. Deal. Outside, the city kept moving, unaware that a small, unlikely story had just begun between a reckless girl who faked everything and the Mafia man who suddenly wanted something real. Morning in Seoul came with soft light spilling through the curtains and the smell of instant coffee. Dinah was still curled on Ray's couch, wrapped in a huge hoodie that clearly wasn't hers. She blinked at the clock and groaned. Lord, I was supposed to post my I'm busy in Paris story 2 hours ago, she mumbled. Ray's voice came from the kitchen. You could just say you're here, she snorted. And ruin my brand? Please. He looked over from the counter, hair slightly messy, holding a mug like he was still trying to understand mornings. Dinah caught herself smiling before she could stop it. Ray in the daylight was different, less cold, more human. The tattoos looked softer, the edges of his silence warmer. For a man who'd once told her emotions were a liability, he looked surprisingly gentle as he poured her coffee. Why do you always make that face? She asked. What face? That one like you're solving a murder in your head while brewing coffee. He chuckled. Habit. Dinah stretched, the oversized sleeves covering her hands. Habit's cute on you. He raised an eyebrow. Cute. Don't push it, boss man, she said, hiding a grin. They sat at the small kitchen table. For a few minutes, there was just the sound of spoons against mugs and the city waking up outside. Dinah scrolled through her phone and sighed. You know what's weird? People think I'm winning. They think I'm living this big, rich, fancy life. But it's all filters, captions, and lighting. I'm tired. Ray studied her quietly. Then stopped pretending. She laughed without humor. Easy for you to say. You were born cool. You wake up looking like a photo shoot. Some of us have to fake it till we make it. He leaned forward. You already made it. You just don't see it yet. For once, Dinah didn't have a comeback. She looked down at her coffee, her reflection rippling on the surface. Maybe I don't want people to know who I really am, she said softly. Because if they do, they'll stop caring. Ray reached over, brushing his thumb lightly across her knuckles. It was such a small gesture, but it felt like the world slowed down around it. Then they were never real. She met his eyes, and for the first time, she didn't feel the need to joke. Later that day, Ray had to meet one of his men. A quiet, lean guy named Miho who seemed to appear out of thin air. Dinah insisted on tagging along. You can't keep hiding your Batman life from me, she teased. Miho tried not to stare, clearly not used to anyone talking to Ray like that. Boss, he murmured. Is she? She's Dinah, Ray said simply. That was enough. They met in a rooftop garden overlooking the city. The wind played with Dinah's curls as she leaned on the railing. You know, if this Mafia thing fails, you could make a killing as a tour guide. Ray smirked. This isn't exactly a tourist spot. Exactly. Exclusive. She winked. Miho cleared his throat, half amused, half nervous. Boss, about the shipment. Handle it, Ray said, eyes never leaving Dinah. No mistakes. When Miho left, Dinah turned to him. Do you ever get tired of being the scary guy? He looked at her for a long moment. Sometimes. But power is safety, Dinah. It keeps people I care about alive. Her heart stuttered. You mean me? He didn't answer. He didn't have to. The silence said enough. That evening, she went live again, not to show off but to talk. Her followers were shocked. No filters, no penthouse background. Just Dinah in Ray's hoodie talking about honesty. Sometimes, she said, we post so people think we're happy. But happiness doesn't need likes. It needs peace. The comments exploded. Some people laughed. Some cried. Ray watched quietly from across the room, seeing her become the woman she was meant to be. When she ended the live, she looked at him. You're staring, she teased. He smiled. You're glowing. Stop, you'll make me blush. Black girls don't blush cute. You do, he said. She froze, unsure what to do with the warmth in his voice. So she did what Dinah always did, made a joke. If you keep saying things like that, I might start thinking you're soft. He stepped closer, slow enough for her to notice the carefulness in his movement. Maybe I am, he said quietly. She tilted her head up. And what happens if you are? He brushed a curl from her cheek, his voice low. Then you'll be the only one who ever saw it. The space between them disappeared. He kissed her, gentle, deliberate, the kind of kiss that felt like a question and an answer all at once. When they parted, Dinah grinned. I swear, if I end up catching feelings, it's your fault. Ray's laugh rumbled low. Then blame me forever. That night, as they drove through the glowing streets, Dinah looked out the window and thought about her life. The fake pictures, the borrowed happiness, the lies she'd told to survive. And for the first time, she didn't feel like pretending anymore. She reached for Ray's hand across the console. He squeezed it once, steady and sure. In that simple silence, with city lights blurring past and his fingers locked with hers, Dinah finally realized what peace actually felt like. The night came wrapped in rain. Seoul streets shimmered under the lights, every drop like silver falling through the dark. Dinah loved the rain, usually, but tonight it made the world feel smaller, tighter. She had spent the afternoon laughing with Ray in his car, arguing over playlists. Now she was alone in her tiny apartment again, brushing out her curls, scrolling through comments on her latest honest post. The live she'd done in his hoodie had gone viral. People were calling her the realest girl in Seoul. For once, she hadn't faked a thing. Her phone buzzed. Ray, stay inside tonight. Dinah frowned. What kind of Batman message is that? She typed. A minute later he replied, please. Something in that word made her heart stumble. She looked around her small apartment. Bare walls, tiny kitchen, the sound of water tapping the window. Then came a knock. Not a polite one. 3 heavy, deliberate knocks. Dinah froze. Nope, she whispered. Not today, Satan. But the knocking came again. She peeked through the peephole and saw 2 men in black coats. No faces she knew. They didn't look like neighbors, and they definitely didn't look like delivery guys. Her instincts kicked in. She grabbed her phone and whispered, Ray, someone's at my door. Don't open it, he said. His voice was suddenly different, low, commanding. I'm on my way. The next 5 minutes felt like 5 years. Dinah's mind ran wild. Maybe they just want directions. Or maybe this is it. I'm about to star in a true crime documentary called The Girl Who Mocked the Mafia. Then she heard footsteps in the hallway, louder, closer, and Ray's voice outside. Leave, he said in Korean. The tone was ice. When she finally dared to crack the door, the 2 strangers were already backing away, heads down. Ray stood in the rain, coat half soaked, eyes fierce. Are you okay? He asked. She nodded, then burst out. Okay? I nearly called the Pope. Who were they? He didn't answer. Instead, he stepped inside, checking the windows, the locks, the stairway. His movements were precise, practiced. Someone's watching you, he said finally. It's about me. They wanted to send a message. Dinah's knees went weak, but her mouth still worked. A message? Tell them to use email like normal people. Ray almost smiled, but the tension didn't leave his eyes. I'll keep guards near you. Oh, so now I get a personal security team? Great. I'll start charging appearance fees. Dinah. He said her name softly, and that one word undid all her sarcasm. She looked up at him, at the rain on his hair, the worry on his face, and felt a sudden, strange calm. You're scared, she said quietly. Not for you. For me. He hesitated. Yes, that was the first time he'd admitted fear of any kind. Without thinking, she reached out, wiping a drop of rain from his cheek. Then don't send guards. Stay. For a heartbeat, he just looked at her, the storm reflecting in his eyes. Then he nodded. The night stretched on. They sat together on her worn-out sofa, the city humming beyond the window. Ray talked more than he ever had, about growing up in Busan, about losing friends, about building walls around himself. Dinah listened, chin resting on her knees. You ever get tired of being strong? She asked. All the time. Then let me be strong for you sometimes. That simple sentence hit him harder than any confession could. He looked at her, really looked, at the girl who once lived through lies just to feel seen, now sitting before him with nothing to prove. You already are, he said. They fell quiet again, and in that silence, something beautiful unfolded. Not fireworks, not drama. Just two tired souls finding rest in each other's company. Dinah leaned her head on his shoulder. You know, I used to think love was all about attention, like comments, people saying goals. But this? She gestured around them. This is different. Ray smiled faintly. What is it? Peace, she whispered. And peace is louder than applause. Outside, the rain eased into a drizzle. Inside, the air felt softer, safer. Ray's hand found hers, steady and warm. Dinah, he said quietly, you don't have to fake anything ever again. She squeezed his fingers. Good, because I'm done pretending. They sat there until dawn crept through the blinds, the city waking once more. For the first time, Dinah didn't reach for her phone or a caption. She just breathed, letting the quiet prove that she was still here, and finally, honestly, alive. They called it ordinary because life usually is. A morning that folds into an afternoon, a joke that becomes a memory, a kiss that becomes a habit. For Dinah and Ray, ordinary had become magical. Ordinary meant burnt toast breakfast, laughter over spilled coffee, her hair in a messy halo, him pretending he could cook. It meant small things stitched together until a life felt like a home. But that week, Dinah had been feeling off. Not dramatic off. Not the my Wi-Fi is down dramatic, a real quiet kind of off. She blamed long days, bad lighting, and the constant pretending that built her online persona. Sometimes her chest tightened after standing too long. Sometimes she would get dizzy for a breath. She laughed it away when Ray noticed, but he noticed because he always did. He asked, in his half-commanding, half-tender voice, "Come to bed earlier?" And she would roll her eyes and say, "Baby, I can't sleep. Inspiration is loud." One night, though, she sat on the edge of the bed and watched him wash his hands in the sink. The light hit his jaw and softened the angles she used to mock. He looked tired. For once, the boss looked small under the weight of everything he carried. Dinah felt a protectiveness that surprised her. "I think I want to make a thing," she said suddenly. He looked up. "A thing. A thing. If I wake up tomorrow and the internet ate me for breakfast, I want one night recorded where I tell you things without the filter." She said it like a joke, but there was a tremor in her smile. Ray paused, caught between wanting to tease her and wanting to be serious. "Okay," he said finally. "Make it." She set her phone on the nightstand and filmed a quick, messy video of them kissing, of her saying dumb lines she'd learned from drama queens, of him pretending to complain about the camera. Then she made another clip, a little quieter. "If you ever need me," she said into the lens with a ridiculous face that dissolved into softness, "I want you to laugh at my bad jokes, cook bad eggs, never stop dressing like you tried." She tucked away the videos the way she tucked away props, meaning nothing more than a private gallery. That night they made love the way two people who had fought and flirted their way into something true do. Slow, tender, clumsy, and miraculous. It was a close thing, the kind of intimacy that feels like confession. No words explained it. They only breathed, held, and rested. Ray's hands that could give orders were careful, as if they were handling glass. Dinah's laughter came in broken little bursts between the quiet. When it was done, they lay awake, fingers laced, watching the city pulse beyond the curtains. She slept on his chest. He hummed until she drifted deeper, and for a long time he thought about promises he hadn't learned to keep. Not to power, not to men, but to the person beside him who dared to be loud in a world that expected silence. At 3 a.m, Ray woke to a small sound. Not a cry, not a gasp, just the little hitch you make in your sleep when something is wrong. He blinked. Dinah's breath had slowed. He prodded her, deeper now, and felt the weight of her head, the smallness of her hands. He called her name softly. No answer. Panic hit like cold wind. He checked pulses the way he had been taught for other reasons in other lives. Her pulse was faint, then fading. The rest of that night is a blur in his mind. Driving like a man who had never cared what speed meant. The sirens that seemed distant and impotent. The sterile lights in the hospital that felt obscene against the memory of her hoodie and her laughter. The doctors moved with professional calm. They spoke of arrhythmia, of sudden cardiac arrest. Terms that draped pain in clinical blue. Ray sat on a hard hospital chair while the machines sang their indifferent song. When the doctor came out, his mouth was the shape of bad news that never becomes better. "We did everything," he said gently. "We're so sorry." Words tumbled from Ray then, not prayers, not opening to prayers, just the sharp edges of a man who had always believed he could control storms. He could not control this. When he finally was allowed into the small room where she lay, the world felt obscene for continuing. Dinah's hair fanned around her face, and even still, a smile seemed to hover in the corner of her mouth as if she'd been mid-laugh. Her phone was on the bedside table. On its screen, the videos she had hidden were there like a small, honest shrine. He watched them in silence. In the first, she teased him, saying, "Promise you'll still hug me like I'm the last human on earth." In the last, quieter ones, she left things that were not planned for death but became gifts for it. A laugh, an apology for the way she'd pushed him away sometimes, a silly instruction to buy a ridiculous pink kettle if he ever wanted to. She told him to keep dressing colorfully. She told him to marry warmth, not fear. She told him, finally, to stop being the man who built walls around everyone he loved. If she had felt that something was wrong, maybe a weird dizziness she'd laughed off, she had also loved loudly enough to put her truth in pixels, like seeds that would grow into memory. That is how he found the letter she had left. Not a plan for death, but a small, bold set of reminders for the man who would live on. The funeral was not the cinematic trial he hated in the news. It was small. A rented hall, a few of her friends from the market, 1 or 2 of his men who had once been children in his world and were now men who cried. The neighbors who remembered the woman who'd smiled at kids and argued loudly with taxi drivers came. Her followers, thousands of faces who had loved her filters and laughed at her roasts, came in numbers that made the room feel like a strange, modern church. Ray did not grieve in public in the way people expected. Grief is not a performance. It is private and ugly and intimate. He found himself in the quiet places he had built for business. Alone in his office at an absurd hour, watching small clips of her, learning the cadence of her laugh as if it were a language he had never bothered to study. He closed the company for a week. He answered nothing. He went to her tiny apartment and sat on the floor with her old ring light, the broken one she used to make penthouse illusions, and he wept like a man who had always thought he had no soft parts left. But grief also moved him. He could not undo what had happened. He could, however, let the rest of her life become something larger than a caption. He set up a foundation in her name, not because charity cleanses guilt, but because she had joked once about helping girls get slay without lies. The Dinah Dream Fund started with seed money from Ray, then from those who loved Dinah, then from strangers who wanted to honor the woman who had been unapologetically loud. The fund helped women with small businesses, photography classes, microloans, and studio time. Photographers who'd been touched by her energy donated lessons. The thrift stores she'd loved hosted pop-ups teaching fashion as confidence, not cost. People said it softened Ray. They were not wrong. He learned to laugh again. A little, A strange sound that did not belong to the old ice boss but to a man remade by loss. He kept her phone on his desk and sometimes, late at night, he watched the videos until the words were etched into him. Live loud, love hard, rest later. Months after the funeral, Ray visited the riverside where they had sat on a night of thrift market fries and cheap ice cream. He sat where they had taken pictures, and with him he had a small camera shaped like the charm she'd once joked about wanting. He took photographs of the places she loved, the market stalls, the cheap noodle shop, the bench under the cherry tree, and sent them to the foundation's newsletter with simple captions. The last picture he took that day was of an empty red car under a cherry tree. He posted it with one line, "For Dinah, who taught me how to be seen." It was bittersweet because it held both the beauty of what they had and the impossibility of keeping it. The story did not have neat justice. It had, instead, a hard, honest ending. A woman who had faked luxury to survive, who found love that made her stop pretending, and a man who learned to warm under sunlight and then had to carry that warmth alone. On quiet nights, Ray would still stand on the penthouse balcony, look at the city, and say her name aloud. The sound of it stitched him back together in ways no money ever could. He kept the promise she hadn't asked for but had left nonetheless. He never went back to being cold. He wore brighter colors, small rebellions Dinah would have loved. He opened a window in his office and let music play in the quiet moments. He laughed when he remembered the way she taught him street slang. He let her laugh echo in the rooms she'd walked in. Dinah's life had been a collage of filters and fearless postures, edits and loud captions. But the real thing she left behind, the real picture that stayed, was not a photo. It was the way she made a man used to darkness learn to live in color. That was the truest, most painful, sweetest legacy of all.
Hello besties, in this sweet story we learned that true love isn't about luxury or looks, it's about being real. Dina faked her life online but Ray loved the truth. In the end, she taught him that power means nothing without love, and love means nothing without honesty. Thank you so much for watching. Kindly like, subscribe and share.